supercharacterfan here, and welcome back to another story time. This is a very special story time because we're going to read an adaptation that I made myself. It's called The Ren and Stimpy Show, Stimpy's Big Day. It's based on the very first episodes of The Ren and Stimpy Show, Stimpy's Big Day, and The Big Shot that first came out all the way back in 1991. Ren and Stimpy is one of my favorite shows. However, it is meant for an older audience. So, I hope you enjoyed this story, this adaptation, and without any further ado, let's get started. Chapter 1. One fine day, Stimpy was inside the house watching TV. He was mesmerized by TV, especially cartoons. His eyes would pop out in every direction, and he would almost never take them off the screen. In fact, every time he watches TV, he would get caught in a spellbinding trance, as if it was hypnotizing him. Because of that, he would almost never get up for anything, like he was permanently glued to his seat. His best friend and roommate, Ren Hoek, stood beside Stimpy and watched him sitting stagnantly on his litter box, staring at the tube 2 feet away from him. "Look at you, man," he said, smacking his hands together loudly to get his dim-witted pal's attention. "You're a full-grown cat, still watching cartoons. Why, you're 3 years old. Do you know how old that is in human years?" Stimpy hung his head, ashamed. Ren put his arm around him. "Listen to me, man. I'm your friend." He gently pulled the top of Stimpy's head off to reveal what was inside. He picked up his friend's brain and held it with his thumb and index finger. It looked about the size of a peanut, much smaller than the average brain would be. "Don't you know cartoons will ruin your mind?" he finally asked. "Look what it's done to your brain." He dropped the brain back into Stimpy's head, used his nose as a toilet flusher to flush it down, and closed his head back up again. By the time he was done, it seemed as though the brain had vanished completely. When Stimpy finally looked back at the TV, he squealed with excitement. His all-time favorite show was on. He gestured to Ren to be quiet and tossed him aside. With a big grin on his face and his heart full of glee, he moved a little closer to the screen. He heard the announcer say with pride, "And now, kids, it's time for the Muddy Mud Skipper Show." Just then, Muddy Mud Skipper appeared on the screen. He did his famous Mud Skipper flop as his theme song began to play. Stimpy got off of his seat and started to dance to the thrilling music. It felt like for the first time in quite a while, He was having the time of his life. When the music finally stopped, the announcer off screen said, "And now a word from our sponsor." Stimpy's big grin started to wear as he headed back to his litter box seat. The Muddy Mud Skipper Show is brought to you by Gritty Kitty Litter, the announcer said. Just then, a different announcer appeared on the screen, holding a microphone. "Friends, do you use Gritty Kitty Litter?" he asked. Stimpy grabbed the litter box out from under him. He always used Gritty Kitty Litter when he did his business. "Then you know about its absorbency, its fragrance. It's like the smell of fresh bison," the announcer said. Stimpy took a deep breath and drew in the Gritty Kitty scent through his nostrils. He loved the fresh smell of kitty litter. The TV announcer went on as the screen showed a blob of litter being thrown onto a wall. "It sticks to any surface. It's great as a between-meal snack." Stimpy nodded. It was too good to be true. "And how about that wonderful feeling you get when you squish it between your toes?" the announcer said. Stimpy laid back in his litter box and gathered some litter between his toes. He began to squish the litter with all his might and grinned big. He loved the feeling of grainy litter between his toes. The announcer held up a big bag of Gritty Kitty litter. "So remember, folks, if it doesn't say Gritty Kitty, it stinks," he said. But he wasn't done yet. He turned the bag around to reveal a form showing about a contest. "And now, for all you kitties at home, I'd like to announce a contest. We want you to write a poem of 47 million words or less telling us why you love Gritty Kitty Litter. Whoever writes the best poem will win." Stimpy suddenly felt shaky and excited at the same time. He started biting his nails as the announcer revealed the prizes. $47 million, a lifetime supply of goat cheese, a 12-hour record compilation of the top hits of the 70s, and best of all, a trip to Hollywood and a guest appearance on the Muddy Mud Skipper Show. Stimpy couldn't believe it. He burst with so much joy that he could hardly contain himself. "Oh, joy! I hope I get to meet Muddy Mud Skipper," he thought. "I've got to write that poem right away." So he rushed over to a special room where he could write, while Ren just laid there on the floor with Stimpy's gloves right on top of his head. Chapter 2. In a dark room with only a lamp for a light, Stimpy sat at his desk, attempting to write the best Gritty Kitty poem he could possibly come up with. Hundreds of crumpled up papers were all over the floor as Stimpy pondered for a while, thinking about what to write. Ren stood on top of the desk next to him as he began to write. Gritty kitty, ain't so pretty, but it's really thick, he said to himself, writing it down. Are you out of your mind? Complained Ren. Stimpy tried his best to ignore him and continued writing. It fills my cat box oh so snug. It always does the trick. I like to rub it on my toe and squish and squish and squish. It ne'er offends my tender nose. He paused and scratched his ear with his pencil, thinking about what to write down next. It had to rhyme somehow. Suddenly, he got an idea. He wrote it down, like a smelly fish. Ren smacked his hands near Stimpy, trying to make him snap out of it. Stimpy warily looked up from his paper for a moment, then continued writing. Its texture is a joy to me. It's just as smooth as silk. It makes my little whiskers twitch. He paused again, trying to figure out another rhyme. Ren leaned against the lamp, annoyed. It stays crunchy even in milk, he said mockingly. Stimpy squealed with delight. That's it. He was glad to have his friend's words as an inspiration. He quickly wrote it down and finished his poem as Ren just stood there, fuming. It stays crunchy even in milk. I may not be the president. I may not be the Pope. But as long as I have Gritty Kitty, I shall never mope. When he was done, he smiled contently. He had written the perfect poem. He knew he could win the contest for sure. He put the poem into an envelope and licked the flap so it would close. Then he took out a stamp and licked that as well. Once he stuck it on the envelope, he went outside to drop it into the mailbox. Ren followed him suspiciously. Where are you going? He asked. Stimpy didn't answer. He just walked up to the mailbox with glee. I tell you, these contests are scams, said Ren. No one ever wins them. Come on now, get real here. But I want to meet Muddy Mud Skipper, replied Stimpy. Ren had finally had enough. You idiot, he said. He's just a cartoon character, not real, not flesh and blood like we. I tell you, cartoons aren't real. They're... He stopped talking for a moment to think of what to say. They're puppets, he finally said at last. Stimpy didn't know what to do. He looked at the mailbox, then at Ren. He knew Ren wouldn't forgive him for a long time if he put the poem in the mailbox, but he really wanted to win the contest. It was a hard decision for him to make.
If you put that letter in the box, I'm going to lose all respect for you,
said Ren. It looked like he really meant it, but Stimpy just had to follow his dreams. After trembling and shaking for a minute or two, he dropped the letter in the box and shut the box door. Then he collapsed near Ren's feet.
Oh, forgive me, Ren. Please forgive me,
he begged.
I just couldn't help myself.
Stimpy kept holding on to Ren's legs, but Ren still refused to forgive him. And that night, Stimpy tried to say goodnight, but all Ren did was growl back at him. It almost felt like, for the first time in forever, Ren really meant what he said. And with that thought in mind, Stimpy dozed off to sleep, feeling miserable. Chapter 3. The next morning, Ren woke up and saw that Stimpy had pushed himself far across the upper side of the bed they both sleep in. He felt guilty. He tried to say something, or at least apologize, but the doorbell rang, interrupting him. He slowly hopped out of bed and walked over to the door, opening it.
Yes, what is it?
He asked. He looked up to see two fancy dressed men at the door. One was holding a camera. Are you Stimpson J. Cat? The other man asked Ren.
Oh, you mean Stimpy,
replied Ren. He pointed in the direction behind him.
He's over there.
The man held a big bag full of money. Can you tell him that he's won $47 million? He asked Ren.
Right, 47 million. I'll get him,
Ren replied. Just as he turned around, he stopped in his tracks.
$47 million?
He ran back to the man and pounced on him.
I'm the cat.
Ren wanted that money so bad, and he didn't care what he had to do to get it. So he tried to do various things to prove he was a cat. Just when he was licking the fancy dressed man's hair, Stimpy walked into the room, stretching and scratching his rear.
What's up, Ren?
He said with a yawn. Ren hopped down and pointed at him.
Nothing, Rover,
he barked.
Go back to your doghouse.
But the men weren't fooled. The man holding the money walked past Ren and went over to Stimpy.
Congratulations, Mr. Stimpy,
he said.
Your wonderful poem won first prize.
Just as he was about to drop the bag near Stimpy, Ren swooped the bag out of his hands and stood in front of it.
It's my money,
he claimed.
I wrote that poem. Stimpy cheated. I just know it.
Stimpy just stood there, dumbfounded. The only thing he could do was not get involved. Ren went into Stimpy's litter box.
I always use your stinky old litter. Look how I love it,
he exclaimed. He took a big lump of litter into his hand and put it in his mouth. He tried to grind it with all his might, attempted to swallow it despite the awful taste, and gave his best smile, pretending to love the litter. Everyone still wasn't fooled. Within seconds, a car engine started outside. Inside was Stimpy and two beautiful ladies. One had her arms around the cuddly cat. Stimpy waved goodbye as the window closed and the limo began to drive away.
Go on, get out of here,
yelled Ren as the limo drove off.
Who needs ya?
Walking away from the window, Ren started to droop. Deep inside, he actually needed Stimpy more than anything in the whole world. Tears began to well up in his eyes. Heartbroken, he dropped to the ground and began to cry. Soon enough, Stimpy finally made it to Hollywood. He just stood there backstage feeling jumpy inside. Right near him was the one and only Muddy Mud Skipper, and he finally got to meet him.
Muddy Mud Skipper, I can't believe it. You're my idol,
he gushed with glee.
Hey, kid, I know, don't sweat it,
replied Muddy Mud Skipper.
Someday you're gonna be big, bigger than me.
He said that as a joke, but Stimpy didn't seem to notice. Muddy Mud Skipper leaned near him and said,
Face it, kid, I was once a lousy bum just like you. I crawled my way out of the mud to get where I am. If you want to make it in this world, you gotta adapt.
Stimpy wrote down everything he said.
Ever breathe oxygen, son?
he asked him. Stimpy opened his mouth to speak, but Muddy Mud Skipper didn't give him a chance to.
Good, don't start. Me, I'm hooked. Get it?
he said, making another joke. Stimpy tried to speak again, but the loudspeaker interfered.
5 minutes till airtime,
it said.
Well, kid, this is your big break. You're gonna be great,
encouraged Muddy Mud Skipper. The stage crew took Stimpy away. Just as everyone left, Muddy Mud Skipper scooted over on his stool and said to himself,
You lousy bum.
Stimpy was taken to his own dressing room, where everyone got him all ready for the big moment of his life. He got makeup on him and got dressed in a fine outfit with a hairpiece on his head. When he got on the stage, lights started flashing on. Microphones and cameras surrounded him. The announcer started to speak.
There's a new face in Hollywood today. It's fresh. It's redundant. Let's give him a warm welcome because his whole career depends on him and this next important message.
Stimpy tried to speak once more, but one of the microphones leaned way close and got stuck in his nose. Chapter 4. Several weeks had passed, and Ren was back home, lying down on the couch, relaxing. He sighed with great pleasure. Alone time at last.
Man, this is the life,
he said to himself.
No one to fuss over me, no one to tell me what to do. Why, I haven't even bathed in 3 weeks.
He scratched his back and looked around the living room. It looked like a pigsty, much different than when Stimpy was around. But Ren didn't care. He had something else in mind.
I wonder if there's any Chinese food left in the fridge,
he said at last. To find out for sure, Ren hopped up from his seat and walked over to the kitchen. Sure enough, the kitchen looked like a pigsty too. In fact, the whole house looked that way. Stimpy would normally clean the house and even cook Ren's meals, but he wasn't here anymore. Trying to avoid the mess, Ren stopped in his tracks when a fake mouse hanging from a string caught his eye. He pushed it gently with his finger.
It's Stimpy's catnip mouse,
he said with a tiny smile. He loved it when Stimpy played with his catnip mouse, but he didn't want to admit it. Attempting to stay calm and not blow a fuse, he punched the catnip mouse away from his face. It snapped off its string and flew to the upper side of the house. Ren continued walking toward the fridge, but he stopped when he accidentally stepped on something. He slowly bent over and picked it up. Tears welled up in his eyes. He couldn't believe what he saw. Trying to fight back the tears, he took a deep breath.
It's Stimpy's hairball,
he exclaimed. At first, he wanted to throw the hairball away, but deep down, he knew he just couldn't do it. He stuffed it in his pocket instead.
Memories,
he sang to himself. Then he said with a sigh,
I wonder what the old boy is doing right now.
Meanwhile, in Hollywood, the studio was inside a supermarket getting ready to shoot a new Gritty Kitty TV commercial. One member of the crew held up a clapboard. It said, Gritty Kitty commercial, take 3. Once the clapboard clapped, the commercial came into action. Stimpy was dressed in a fine suit, holding a microphone.
Ladies and gentlemen,
he said,
we're here at your local supermarket to test the absorbency of Gritty Kitty litter.
Clean up on aisle 7, please, the PA system said. There were a lot of background noise coming on, but Stimpy didn't mind. He kept speaking directly into the camera.
Now, before we begin the test, I'd like you to meet someone.
He looked around for a volunteer. Then he spotted one.
"Excuse me, sir, could you come here for a second?"
he asked, motioning him to come.
"Don't be shy, sir. It's just a television camera."
A horse walked up to the camera.
"So, Mr. Horse, are you a professional actor?"
asked Stimpy. Mr. Horse looked at the camera in front of him.
"No, sir, I am a real horse,"
he replied.
"Thank you. Would you mind stepping over to our isolation booth?"
Stimpy pointed to a booth 2 feet from where they were standing.
"Not at all,"
Mr. Horse replied again. He let Stimpy lead him towards the isolation booth. Once they got there, Stimpy faced the camera again.
"Now, ladies and gentlemen, of course we don't object your kitty litter to this kind of severe test, but we're out to prove a point,"
he said. He pointed to 2 cat boxes marked A and B inside the booth.
"Now over here we have 2 cat boxes. One is filled with the popular name brand litter, and the other filled with Gritty Kitty."
He turned to Mr. Horse and asked,
"Are you ready for the test, Mr. Horse?" "Yes, sir, I am,"
said Mr. Horse. He walked into the booth and closed the flaps. Stimpy took a few steps back and faced the camera again.
"While Mr. Horse does his duty, let me remind you that Gritty Kitty also makes a terrific casserole for when those unexpected guests show up,"
he said to the audience. Just then, a bell chimed. That meant Mr. Horse was done. When Mr. Horse stepped out of the booth, holding both cat boxes in his hooves, he walked back to Stimpy and set the boxes down at his feet.
"Mr. Horse, are you ready?"
asked Stimpy.
"Yes, I am,"
Mr. Horse replied.
"Could you please take a sniff of cat box A?"
asked Stimpy. Mr. Horse picked up cat box A and sniffed. His nose turned up. He looked at the cat box, disgusted.
"And what are your feelings about that, Mr. Horse?"
Stimpy asked. Mr. Horse set the box down and thought for a second. With an unamused look on his face, he finally said,
"No, sir, I don't like it."
"Now try box B," directed Stimpy. Mr. Horse picked up cat box B and sniffed again. He looked at the cat box carefully and sniffed once more. With a shocked expression, he turned to Stimpy with the cat box still in his hooves.
"Why, I don't believe it,"
he exclaimed.
"I can't smell a thing."
"Well, folks, there you have it," said Stimpy, staring directly at the camera.
"If Gritty Kitty can do that for a horse, think of what it can do for your own home."
Mr. Horse kept holding the cat box, amazed.
"Wait till I tell the missus about
this," he declared. Stimpy held up a bag of gritty kitty litter with his face on it and said once more to whoever was watching, "Make sure you use gritty kitty. Just look for me on the label." Chapter 5. Meanwhile, back at the house that night, Ren was just about ready for bed. When he got into bed, he noticed on his nightstand a picture of Stimpy near the lamp. He looked at it, unamused, and turned off the light. He still was sore about his dim-witted friend. Just as he was about to drift off, he noticed Stimpy's pillow. Stimpy's pillow still had an impression of the side of his head from where he had slept the night before he left. Discouraged, Ren quickly took the pillow and got out of bed. He carefully crept into the living room over to the couch. He fluffed the pillow a few times and set it down. The pillow morphed into a shape that looked like Stimpy's face. With a peaceful sigh, Ren lied down on the couch near the pillow and closed his eyes. "Good night, Stimpy," he said with a yawn. Suddenly, he opened his eyes. He saw the morphed pillow and let out a loud scream. "You're haunting me!" he shouted as he quickly got off from the couch and scurried out of the room. No matter what he did, he just couldn't get away from Stimpy. Once he was gone, the Stimpy-shaped pillow stared at the audience and said, "He's talking to pillows, kids." The next morning in Hollywood, Stimpy was at his catbox-shaped pool, wearing a leopard-patterned Speedo. Two ladies sat on benches nearby and watched him climb up the ladder to the diving board. The first lady, wearing a hat, waved to him. "Isn't that Stimpy, the famous Hollywood cat?" she cooed. "Oh my gosh, he's looking at me." "Don't be silly, he's looking at me," said the second lady, wearing sunglasses. The two ladies sighed dreamily as they stared at Stimpy. Stimpy jumped off the diving board and dove into the pool. But the pool wasn't full of water. It was full of cat litter. Stimpy leaned back and did the backstroke, swimming all over the cat litter-filled pool. That night, back at the house, Ren sat down in his big, comfy chair. He just had to think of something to keep his mind off Stimpy after the whole morphed pillow incident last night. He picked up the TV remote and turned on the tube. "I'll watch some TV," he said to himself. "It'll help me to relax." He looked at the screen. He saw Stimpy in a cowboy outfit as the announcer said, "Join us now for Marshal Stimpy." "What? That's not right," thought Ren. He switched channels. This time he saw Stimpy in a caveman suit swinging on a vine, trying to escape the crocodiles chasing him. A different announcer said,
"It's time for Stimpy, the Jungle Boy."
Annoyed, Ren kept changing channel after channel. I love Stimpy, Sergeant Stimpy of the Klondike, Ask Dr. Stupid. Ren grew even more frustrated as he saw Stimpy on every channel.
"What is going on?"
he thought.
"How come I can't escape from Stimpy no matter how hard I try?"
He decided to try one more time. Lying on the floor in frustration, he used his foot to change the TV dial. There was the Stimpy and Muddy Show. Becoming even more discouraged, he gave up. He turned off the TV and walked out of the room. Meanwhile, the Stimpy and Muddy Show was already being broadcasted after it was filmed. It showed Stimpy wearing a tie and Muddy Mudskipper wearing a hat. They were both running in a Yogi Bear-styled way, with Muddy Mudskipper chasing Stimpy through the forest.
"Get your hand out of that picnic basket, you dusty old cat,"
he ordered. When the two started running to the left, Muddy Mudskipper tapped on Stimpy.
"Psst,"
he whispered.
"Hey, kid, say your line." Oh, yeah,"
Stimpy whispered back. Then he started facing front again and said his line.
"Jane, stop this crazy thing."
The two of them started running to the right again, with Stimpy quoting other famous cartoon characters.
"Well, blow me down. I'm hunting for a wabbit. I hate Mises to pieces."
When the cartoon came to a close, the title card was shown once more, saying "The End" on the top corner. Backstage, Muddy Mudskipper gave Stimpy an okay gesture.
"Hey, kid, you did all right,"
he said.
"You lousy bum."
Stimpy didn't answer. He just sat on a stool, feeling depressed all of a sudden.
"Well, what's the matter?"
Muddy Mudskipper asked. Stimpy didn't say anything. He just whimpered.
"Hey, kid, I don't get it,"
said Muddy Mudskipper.
"You've got it made. You've got $47 million. You've got my TV contract. What more could you possibly want?"
Try as he might, Stimpy couldn't hide his feelings anymore. He really missed his best pal more than anything, and all he wanted was to come back to him. Tears streamed down his face as he finally blurted out,
"I want Ren."
Then, with his heart full of despair, he started to cry, but this time harder than he ever did before. Chapter 6. The next day, Ren was feeling very lonely. He just couldn't be without Stimpy. Desperate, he grabbed the bag of Gritty Kitty litter with Stimpy's face on it and sat on the floor, pulling the bag closer to his chest. It was raining outside, outside, but he didn't care. He just wanted Stimpy back. He gently rocked back and forth with the bag, singing,
"Who's the greatest mud skipper of them all?"
He didn't even realize he was singing the Muddy Mud Skipper Show theme song.
"If only I had Stimpy back,"
he thought.
"I miss the joy that he brings to me and to himself."
Just then, the doorbell rang.
"Oh, why bother?"
he thought.
"It might just be the mailman or something like that."
He let out a sad sigh.
"I might as well just answer the door anyway,"
he thought again. With his head down, Ren slowly went to the door. His heavy head gently laid on the door as he opened it. When he finally raised his head up, he just stood there, not saying anything. He rubbed his eyes, not believing what he saw. Standing at the door was his best pal, Stimpy. Stimpy had on a fine suit and hat, carrying his bag on a stick. He even wore his casual, silly smile with his tongue sticking out.
"Pal?"
asked Ren.
"Buddy?"
asked Stimpy back. He couldn't believe what he saw either. Ren and Stimpy stared back at each other for a minute or two. Tears welled up in their eyes. They each took a deep breath and wondered who was going to speak first. Ren jumped up. He couldn't contain his excitement anymore.
"Pal!"
he exclaimed. Stimpy couldn't contain himself either. He did the same thing Ren did.
"Buddy!"
he exclaimed. The two friends gave each other a big hug, filled with joy and relief because they were together again. Ren quivered and looked up at Stimpy.
"What did you do with all your money?"
he asked at last.
"I gave it all away,"
answered Stimpy.
"For me?"
asked Ren.
"For you,"
replied Stimpy. Ren wept tears of joy. So did Stimpy. It was clear that they both really missed each other and were very glad to see each other again. But then a thought dawned on Ren that stopped the heartwarming reunion. Ren leaned back and pointed his finger at Stimpy, shocked.
"You gave away $47 million?"
he hollered. Stimpy watched as steam began to pour out of Ren's ears. He could tell he was very angry, but he couldn't care nonetheless. He just smiled and turned his cheek, allowing his best pal to slap him as he always does.
You fat, bloated idiot! You worm! You stupid!"
shouted Ren, slapping Stimpy back and forth. As he continued to do this, Stimpy didn't mind a bit. He sighed peacefully and thought to himself,
"It's good to be back."
The end. Before I go, here are some pictures that are a part of this adaptation book that I printed out for the book. They're all screenshots from the episodes. The first one here is Stimpy anticipating the contest prizes. The second picture is of Stimpy after he wrote his poem. This is Ren trying to claim the $47 million when he was trying to convince the finely dressed men, that he was the cat and that he wrote the poem. This is a picture of Stimpy and Mr. Horse during the Gritty Kitty commercial filming. This picture was when Ren was trying to watch TV, but every channel had Stimpy. And the final picture is Ren and Stimpy hugging during their heartwarming reunion. And that was my adaptation of the Ren and Stimpy Show, Stimpy's Big Day. Thank you for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the story, and please be sure to like and subscribe for more fun videos. Thanks for watching. Bye!